going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, and follow me on Twitter at SuperHiveDC. Link is in the description. And some other links in the description, including a link to my merch as well. So there is some statements, comments going around from a New York Times article. The focus is on Walter HAMADA, and him is, describing what they want to do with DC characters moving forward, specifically utilizing the concept of the multiverse to their advantage. And we started hearing more about this during the DC fandom event back in August, and they pretty much, threw it out there when they did the crossover with the CW Flash series, when Ezra Miller's Flash showed up. And so that kind of put it, into motion that yes, they are going to use the multiverse in some way at some point. And again, at the DC fandom event, Walter HAMADA brought it up. Now, this New York Times article is sort of, there's positive things about it and negative things about it. Some of the positives are some, like the statements that Walter HAMADA makes and, kind of explaining what they want to do, what Warner Brothers wants to do with these DC characters. And then some of the negatives are things that are just added into this. They're not quotes from him. They're just things that the writer of the article decided to include, which I'm sure you probably have seen comments about a cul-de-sac floating around Twitter if you are active on there within the DC fan culture. So let's just go over some of it's a pretty long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's focus on some of the things that are important from the article. All right, so Walter HAMADA, of course, is president of DC Films. So the first thing that stands out is that the most expensive DC movies they're saying that they want to design those for release in theaters. So we're thinking they're big franchise movies, Wonder Woman, Flash, Batman. Hopefully if they ever make another Superman movie, those movies. And it says up to for a year starting in 2022. So the plan is to have up to 4 DC movies releasing in theaters starting in the year 2022. And of course, Robert Pattinson's Batman movie got pushed back to 2022. It will not be one of the ones that gets a hybrid release in 2021 with HBO Max and theaters. They want to do just a full theatrical release with that one. So, and then also included with that, 2 annually is the goal, perhaps focused on riskier characters like Batgirl and Static Shock that will arrive exclusively on HBO Max. So I don't know if those 2 movies, I don't know if they're confirming that those 2 movies are going to be exclusively on HBO Max, or, they're just using those as an example of characters that might not get a theatrical release for their movies. They did confirm that they are doing a Static Shock movie. Michael B. Jordan is going to be, in charge of, not in charge of, but he's going to produce it and everything. So, looks like they're going to continue to use HBO Max as, a release format for at least some movies. And then it goes on to continue. In addition, DC Films will work with filmmakers to develop movie offshoots, TV series that will run on HBO Max and interconnect with their big screen endeavors. So Walter HAMADA's quote on that is, with every movie that we're looking at now, we are thinking, what's the potential Max spinoff, referring to HBO Max. So it looks like they want to expand on, a lot of their movies that go to theaters. They want to expand on those in spinoff series on HBO Max, which the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, we've known for a while now that there is going to be a Gotham spinoff series on HBO Max based on his Batman universe. So that's already one example. We're going to have a Peacemaker series that's a spinoff from the Suicide Squad movie, which personally I don't really have any interest in. But if you do, that's cool. I mean, I just am surprised that got a spinoff series before we've even seen a trailer for the movie. But that's just my opinion. Um, so it says to make all the storylines work, DC Films will introduce movie audiences to a comics concept known as the multiverse. Okay, that's how they're going to do this, which is parallel worlds where different versions of the same character exist simultaneously. So this is one of the very interesting points of this article. It says, coming up, for instance, Warner Brothers will have 2 different film sagas involving Batman, played by 2 different actors running at the same time. So of course, one of those is Robert Pattinson having his Batman movies possibly. But is the other one referring to Ben Affleck? Like, of course, we've had rumors for a long time saying that Ben Affleck is going to have, they're going to use his original script for the Batman as a movie or as a series with Deathstroke and everything. Is that what this is referring to? I don't know, but I hope so. I hope that's what that means. It says film sagas, so it doesn't say like appearances or something like that. It gives the impression that we're going to have the Batman with Robert Pattinson, his movies, and then hopefully Ben Affleck. That's what I'm hoping that means. Now here's another interesting comment made by Walter Hamada. It says, in the past, we were so secretive. It was shocking to me, for example, how few people at the company were actually allowed to read scripts for the movies we were making. So it seems like they're trying to be more open about what they want to do, what they plan to do moving forward. So, and it says above that, Disney has succeeded in part because its divisions collaborate in a way that siloed Warner Brothers never has, but it's changing. AT&T mandated greater cross-company synergy when it took over Warner Media in 2018. So maybe that's, where some of this is coming from as well. And then it, goes on to describe, the kind of vague information that they put out regarding how many people watched Wonder Woman 84 opening day. They did give some numbers about that, which I mentioned in another video. But of course, the streaming service is a really big thing, especially right now with theaters, not as many theaters being open, and then, even for the ones that are having limitations, it doesn't seem like they're going to continue releasing, doing a hybrid release after 2021 for their movies. But like they said, they still want to continue storylines on HBO Max via TV series, and then, movies for some of their characters that might have smaller budgets for their movies. They can put those on HBO Max instead of in theaters. And there's also the other DC shows that continue to run on CW. Flash, Batgirl's getting a new season with a new actress. Some of them have stopped, Arrow and Supergirl, but there's the other ones that still continue, Legends of Tomorrow and stuff like that. So, but I imagine that, the DC series that will be on HBO Max will have very different tones and content compared to the CW ones. So, regarding the video I made yesterday about Wonder Woman 3, I kept mentioning in there that it's probably going to be a pretty long time before we see a third Wonder Woman movie. But then later on in the day, and this article mentions it also, that Toby Emmerich was saying that they are fast-tracking that movie. I don't know how much they're going to actually be able to fast-track that movie, because Patty Jenkins has other stuff that she's going to do. I mean, her and Gal Gadot are going to do the Cleopatra project for Paramount. Patty Jenkins is going to be doing a Star Wars movie. I don't know exactly when those are going to start, like, production and stuff, but like I said, with all that other stuff going on, like, how fast-tracked are they going to be able to push for the Wonder Woman 3? I don't know. But again, they did confirm that yesterday. I made a video about that if you want to head over and get some more details about that. Of course, we don't have details about the story or anything. They're just confirming that it's going to happen. But it says, like, I guess the whole point of this is that they kind of want to focus on these characters, and hopefully it means that they're going to commit. That's what I hope it means. So now it gets into more detail about kind of what happened with Justice League, somewhat. And that, kind of when Ben Affleck left the Batman role, and, it's making it complicated to make sequels. It just complicated a lot of things with their timeline of movies. And so it says that Walter Hamada and Toby Emmerich had two options: either figure out how to make the various storylines work and character incarnations coexist, or start over. So that answer is the multiverse. That's how they're going to have different versions of the same character existing within, whether it's in theaters, on HBO Max, TV, whatever. And then, it explains that. Boiled down, it means that some characters will continue their adventures on Earth 1 while new incarnations will populate Earth 2. Robert Pattinson's Batman. So the way they're going to link these two universes is the Flash film, which is a Flashpoint center. They're focusing on the Flashpoint for that movie. How accurate to like the animated film or the comics that's going to be, I'm not sure. But it is a Flashpoint storyline. And we know that Ben Affleck will return as Batman in the Flashpoint movie. And we will also have an appearance from Michael Keaton. So that's one way of linking, two universes to each other. And I don't think that the earlier comment about having two film sagas with two Batman characters played by two different actors running at the same time, I don't think that that's referring to Michael Keaton, because I'm pretty sure he's not going to have a whole film saga. He's going to have an appearance in the Flash movie. So I don't think that's what that comment is referring to. I think it's more likely referring to Ben Affleck. So here's where this article gets touchy for us DC fans. At least for now, Mr. Snyder is not part of the new DC Films blueprint, with studio executives describing his HBO Max project as a storytelling cul-de-sac, a street that leads nowhere. Above that, it's kind of just, briefly describing what happened with Justice League and having Joss Whedon come in to finish it. And now that we're going to get Zack Snyder's Justice League in March. I find that comment problematic because they're not, they do have some quotes from Walter Hamada here in this article, but none of his comments mention anything about that. And they do say with studio executives describing it as a street that leads nowhere. However, for how long did we hear that this is never going to happen? They don't have any plans to release Zack Snyder's version of the movie anytime soon. It's not real. It doesn't exist. The studio's never going to do that. And now we're not just getting the completed, we're not just getting the version of his that was going to be allowed to be into theaters. No. We're getting his original vision, a 4-hour cut, with his vision restored. The story, the way things look, the music, everything. And the HBO Max invested $70+ million into finishing that. I don't see that as a street that leads nowhere. Pretty much all of us that are excited for Zack Snyder's Justice League want it to continue, and we haven't even seen it yet. We don't even know what we don't know about it. There's so much we still don't know. I'm pretty sure they are aware of the fan base, desire to have more. And Patty Jenkins had said very bluntly that us DC directors toss that out as much as the fans, referring to the theatrical version of Justice League. So it's not a street that leads nowhere, because it seems like the DC directors are using Zack Snyder's Justice League as canon for their characters moving forward. So again, that's not exactly a street that leads nowhere or a storytelling cul-de-sac. I don't see that. I find it hard to believe that just because they haven't confirmed a part 2 to Zack Snyder's Justice League or a continuation of it, of course they're gonna wait until they have a really clear idea of how many people are watching it, how many subscribers are sticking around, how many people are rewatching it, all that kind of stuff. before they just go and like decide to do a continuation. It's obvious that yes, the fan base is there, but they're not just going to come out and say that that's what they're going to do yet, because they need to be sure for their end, you know what I mean? But I find it hard to believe that they would invest that much money into letting him continue, not just continue, but completely finish his whole vision. Like I said, not just the theatrical version that we would have got in 2017 from Zack Snyder, but his original vision. And this is what I really, from, you know, Walter Hamada says, I don't think anyone else has ever attempted this, but audiences are sophisticated enough to understand it. If we make good movies, they'll go with it. So I hope this means like what the DC fans have wanted since they started their universe with Man of Steel. Just commit to what you're going to do. Support your directors, support their visions. You know, what happened with Justice League was probably the biggest failure they will have in their superhero, you know, sphere of movies for Warner Brothers. If that's not a lesson for them to learn, then I don't know what is. They don't need to be like Marvel. They can do their own thing, and that's what they said at the very beginning of starting this universe is, you know, DC is different, and that's just how it is. It's different from Marvel. And they said that in the beginning, in my opinion, because they probably expected that people would, you know, put the same expectations on DC that they have for Marvel, which is dumb. That's not fair. There's no reason to do that. DC is its own thing. It doesn't have to be the same. Another thing I did not like about this was the comment that, not from Walter Hamada, but it says that the multiverse is a risky concept for movies, even though it has worked on television. And it says these movies need to attract the widest audience possible to justify their cost, and too much of a comic nerd sensibility can be a turnoff. New actors can take over a character. James Bond is the best example, but multiple Gotham spinning in theaters? I don't like that comment, because what are these movies based off of? Comic books. That's what they're based off of. And the cool thing about that is that there's so many different directions a director or filmmaker can take a character that's based off of comic books, because there's so many different versions in comic books, you know? They can take something from here, take something from there, you know, use this kind of imagery, use this kind of story, like, and then add their own little things to it that they, you know, their point of view. What is people's, like, number one complaint when a movie based off of a book comes out? Most of the time, movies are not good as books. And by this, I mean, like, you know, a series of books, novels and stuff like that. One of the biggest complaints people have with movies that are based on books, just books in general, is that they're not similar enough to the books. So how is a comic nerd sensibility a turnoff for movies that are based on comic books? This here is part of the reason why people project their, you know, the Marvel standard, the Marvel formula, they project that onto DC because Marvel movies are made for general audiences. Yes, there are some things in there that are geared toward the Marvel fans, comic book fans, but they bring in general audience. That's, you know, that's what works. That's why their movies have succeeded the way that they have. Now, when DC attempts to do something different, for example, bringing in the multiverse or having things in movies like parademons, you know, the Flash coming in through the Speed Force and BVS, those things are for comic book fans. And, you know, for whatever reason, DC gets criticized for that. So this, I hope these comments from Walter Hamada, I hope it means that, you know, if they want to have up to 4 movies coming out starting in 2022, plus the stuff on HBO Max, the spin-off series, this other movies, whatever, just commit to what you're going to do. Stand by your directors and your filmmakers. Let them, you know, have their vision that they want to have. Don't be afraid of things to be darker, grittier, whatever. It's obvious that the fan base for that is here. Don't disregard your fan base and only listen to the critics, because that's, I mean, you know how you cannot please everyone, and that's usually the biggest failure. That's usually what happens, why things don't succeed, like what happened with Justice League, because they're trying to please everyone, mainly the people who complained about BVS, instead of listening to the fans who actually loved BVS and Man of Steel. So moving forward, I hope that's what they do. Kind of turned into a long video, I know, but there was a lot of content in this article. And like I said, good things and bad things. But hopefully means more commitment and not being afraid to take risks. Choosing to be different from Marvel. So that way it's okay for people to enjoy both, but we don't need them both to be the same. So thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and we'll see you next time.